Hey, everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Got a great show for you today. We're going to sit down. We're going to discuss this Minnesota Vikings teams because there's only like one or two teams in the NFL better than the Vikings right now. So are the Vikings headed to the Super Bowl? This could be the year, but injuries are going to matter. Also, the Gophers are playing for the Little Brown Jug. What are their chances? We'll talk about all that next coming up on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast. And it starts now.
Hey, everybody, this is Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Thanks for joining us today. For those watching on YouTube, thank you. Please tell your friends. We're here. Ron Johnson Show, Locked On Sports Minnesota. We are on YouTube. We're also on Amazon Fire and Roku, but thanks for joining the show today. It's a beautiful Tuesday. A lot of sports to talk about, a lot of stuff happening. The Lynx might sweep tomorrow. The Gophers are headed to Ann Arbor for the Little Brown Jug. The Vikings are headed to the horrible enemy territory of Green Bay. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if Justin Jefferson has it in him, but maybe we might see a gritty, and I'll explain this in the show what I want to see. I don't know if it's going to happen. I got a gritty idea, and I'll see what Sam thinks about that. But as I bring my producer to the show, I want everybody to know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bet. So think about that. You got $200 bonus bet. You put $5 down. You got $205 now. Go put that on a lock. Now, if you want to know the locks, just wait till Friday, because on the round table, we give you our locks, and Sam has the records, as we'll talk about on Friday. Records are looking pretty good. We're giving you guys some good locks. I know mine was Stefon Diggs plus. He was on the plus side, plus 140, I think is what it was, for 60 or more yards. Stefon Diggs almost had 100 yards. He also led the game, because I said on our pregame show, I said that Stefon Diggs would have more yards than Justin Jefferson. I said Nico Collins or Stefon Diggs. I knew one of the two. Almost got beat out. Justin Jefferson was close to getting Stefon Diggs. I'm like, I want the Vikings to win, but I also want Stefon Diggs or Nico Collins to have more than Justin Jefferson. I know I'm selfish, but I love to win my bets. So those are guaranteed. That's a guaranteed $200 in bonus bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now, Sam, as we get into this show, I want everybody to know the Gophers are my team. I play for the Minnesota Gophers. I'm a former Minnesota Gopher. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, so I visited Michigan. So this game for me is weird. Like my cousin, Makari Page, plays for Michigan. So we'll talk about that in the next segment. The Lynx, Sam. I'm a basketball guy. My daughter plays basketball. I love basketball. The Lynx possibly might sweep. We'll talk about that later too. But Sam, top of the hour, we got to talk about the Vikings, Sam. They are 3-0. Let's give a round of applause for the Minnesota Vikings, because nobody gave them a chance, Sam, to be here. Every tweet now, every conversation now, every person. I know that's what the NFL is about. Like the Vikings were 0-3, nobody was talking about the Vikings. If the Vikings were 2-1, nobody was talking. Like if the Vikings had lost to the Texans and Sam Darnold had a bad game, people would say, "Oh, here we go. This is the team I knew it was. They're not ready yet." Sam, there's nobody in the NFC right now statistically better than them. You got the Buffalo Bills, they're out there. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're out there, but they're over in the AFC. The NFC, Sam, is Vikings territory. So you growing up, being a Minnesotan, you're one of us. I don't know if I'm one of us, because I got here for college in 98. I stayed for 4 years.
Yeah. I'm a South Dakotan though, Ron. I grew up in South Dakota.
Yeah. So are you considered? Because I know Dan Barrera always brings that up. Like,
I don't think I am.
See, I always wondered that. Like, I don't know if I've done enough to be considered one of us. I have to ask. Maybe I'll call in to K-Fan today and talk to Barrera and JG and just say, what are the criteria to be one of us? But Sam, seeing the Minnesota Vikings at 3-0, like it feels like that video of like, look at us. Who thought we'd be here? Not me. Like I truly feel like the Steelers and the Vikings, that's who that is right now. Like because the Buffalo Bills, I get that. They're good. They're a good team to be up there, considered as one of the top teams. The Chiefs, I guess you consider they thought they were going to be the Bengals. For me, is the most shocking. So that's my reaction first, Sam. The Vikings are 3-0, and the Bengals are 0-3. I did not see that coming. I don't know. What about you?
Well, check this out too. In the NFC, there are no winless teams. Everybody's got at least one win, and then there's only 2 undefeated teams. So there's just a lot of parity in the NFC right now, which I think we expected. There aren't a lot of dominant quarterbacks in our conference. And you got the Seahawks at 3-0. You got the Vikings at 3-0.
Oh, Seahawks. That's what I forgot about. Yep.
Yeah, the Seahawks. Yep. They took it to Tua-less Miami on Sunday. But yeah, the league is so even right now. A lot of those legendary quarterbacks have retired. I think quarterback play is a little more inconsistent than it was maybe 5 years ago. So we're seeing a lot of weird results, aren't we? Like the Washington beating Cincinnati. Crazy. I think we've had like a dozen heavy underdogs win outright the past couple of weeks. If you look at the FanDuel lines, it's been really volatile.
Yeah, you know what's crazy too, Sam? Like, I don't know if you know, this is so off topic, but if you have not updated your location on Google, they won't give you your search. So like I've been searching on my device here, my tablet that's part of the show tablet, so I can see the script and everything going on. I was searching NFL rankings just to see, where they ranked at, what do they have, who's top, who's bottom. And then, you click standings. So it gives you the schedule. Then you click, and then it says your location hasn't been updated based off your past activity. I'm like, wait, what? Why do you need to track me? Why do you need to know my location right now? Because the NFL wants to see where I'm logging in from. Like, I just feel like it's always trying to find a way to track our stuff so they can give us more of what we want. I understand it. They're trying to cultivate and help us out with the teams we push the most and the teams we follow. I hope what they're noticing, maybe that's what it is. My past activity has been like almost every other team probably. So they're like, this dude has no like loyalty. But you got the Chiefs at 3-0, as I said. You got the Steelers at 3-0. You got the Buffalo Bills at 3-0 in the AFC. And then the AFC South, the Texans are still number 1. So we beat the number 1 team in the AFC South. They are 2-1. The Colts are 1-2. The Titans and the Jaguars. And the Jaguars 0-3, Sam. That one for me too threw me off. And
Vikings get to play that whole division, by the way. That's a pretty good draw, the way it's looking. I mean, those 3 games should be wins.
Yeah, originally when you looked at it, you're like, I don't know. This is a strong conference because the Jags with Trevor Lawrence, it's not looking good. And then you got the Commanders. The Commanders, Sam. The Commanders. Let me is this thing on? The Commanders are number 1 in the NFC East. Like, I don't know, and this is, you tell me, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be a dumpster fire league, because we remember the NFC East one at one point was the dumpster fire. Nobody wanted to win. Everybody was terrible. And I think the Eagles basically limped into number 1. And then of course, the Devontae Adams, the Devontae Smith draft, the Jalen Hurts draft, and then the Eagles kind of vaulted to the top and kind of set themselves up as one of the top. And then the Cowboys got better as well. The Giants and the Commanders were at the bottom. Now the Commanders are at the top because of Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels looks really good. He's out there throwing the ball around. Him and Terry McLaurin are scary together. Like, it looks good. You got the Seahawks over the Rams and the 49ers. I didn't see that coming. There's no way. I don't know if you did, Sam. There's no way I thought the Seahawks would be better than the 49ers and the Rams. Like, the 49ers, if somebody were to say the 49ers at the bottom of the league, nobody would say it. Now, here's the thing I heard Florio say this morning on his podcast on Peacock with Phil Sims. Or no, Chris Sims. The last time the 49ers lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, they had a terrible season. I don't know what year that was. I'd have to go back. But the next year, they had a terrible injury-riddled season the next year. So maybe this is the losing to the Chiefs curse that the 49ers have to bear.
Super Bowl hangover. Yeah.
But the Super Bowl hangover plus injury. Like, it's just not looking good for them. And then, of course, honestly, the NFC North kind of looks like what people assumed it could look like. I think I remember this. I flip-flopped the Lions. I had the Lions at the top. I had the Vikings and the Packers. Like, I was like either or. You remember that? I was like either or. But I did feel like the Lions were the top, and then I had the Bears at the bottom. So the NFC North, I think, for the most part, the one surprise is the 3-0 Vikings based off their schedule. Like, everybody to this point thought for sure 1-2. Like, you had Texans, you have 49ers, everybody assumed 1-2. And then the NFC South, same thing. Looks pretty much like we thought it was going to look. Saints, Buccaneers, Falcons, Panthers. I knew the Panthers would be at the bottom. But when you look at the NFC as a whole, points for and points against. Points for, points against is the tiebreaker. So that puts the Vikings as number 1. Because if you look at it right now, them and the Seahawks both have a 1,000 winning percentage, but the Vikings have scored 85 to the 73 points the Seahawks have scored, and the Vikings have only given up 30 to the 43 that the Seahawks given up. Also, as far as defense goes, the Vikings have given up 30 points, Sam. I don't know if you knew that, but 30 points.
Pretty good.
And the next closest team is the Saints at 40, or sorry, Seahawks at 43 and the Saints at 44. So they have like 2 touchdown lead for their defense on every single NFC team. And then if you go to the AFC, the Steelers have the number 1 defense in the NFL as far as points scored against, or points allowed, if you want to call it that. 26. But that means Brian Flores is only 4, but that's a field goal. It's field goal away. They're 4 points away. So Brian Flores, Vikings, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, my dad's Pittsburgh Steelers, are the top 2 defenses in the NFL, which I think fits Mike Tomlin. And here's the thing. The Minnesota Vikings football program, I feel like there's always like, I don't even think it's 6 degrees of separation. It's like 3. The top 2 teams have Minnesota ties. Why? Because Mike Tomlin at one point was a Minnesota Viking. So you can always tie it back to the Minnesota Vikings somehow, some way, Sam. But when you look at where they are right now with the Minnesota Vikings, and I know your question of the day, and you guys tell us on YouTube. Maybe we'll put this question out on Twitter so you guys can answer as well, and then we'll answer it. But the question of the day: are they the best team in the NFL? Are the Vikings the best team in the NFL? And I gave you guys all the stats. I gave you guys all the metrics. I personally, Sam, here's where I'm struggling. Defensively, I kind of want to give it to the Steelers because they're not having to do a bunch of tricks. They're just straight up beating people. The Vikings defense is just as good. I want to give the edge to the Vikings offense, though, over the Steelers offense. Justin Fields is playing great. Like, Justin Fields right now is having a great season. He's doing well. He's playing well. I don't know if you saw this, Sam, but RG3 kind of tweeted and said, is this proof? I think I did, because I tweeted over it and said shots fired. He had Sam Darnold's picture. He said, this proof, or he said this whole season, though, but he had a picture of Sam Darnold. Is this season proof that a lot more NFL teams know how to mess up a quarterback than to grow a quarterback? Because if you look at Sam Darnold, they threw him away. You look at Geno Smith, they threw him away. You look at Justin Fields, they threw him away. There's some coaches that just know how to get the best out of their players. And so that's why I look at that. But you look at the Steelers and who they, their Chargers, they play the Chargers. I don't know if I would say the Chargers look great right now. Like, I don't know if that's me, if that's just like I'm gut reaction guy. But you also look at, they played the Falcons. Falcons are pretty good. They beat the Eagles. They beat the Falcons 18-10. They turn around and beat the Broncos 13-6. And everybody's like, man, the Steelers aren't that good. Broncos turned around and murdered the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
So, Sam, I think the Steelers are good. I think the Steelers are playing some better teams than we thought they were going to be. I mean, we know the Chargers, even though Justin Herbert's struggling, we know that Harbaugh is going to get the best out of his front sevens, like his front 7 defense, his front 7 offense, front 5 offense, front 7 defense. He's going to get the bigs and those linebackers. We know that that's how he coaches. You go back way back. You can keep going back to everywhere he's been. His defensive up front and his offensive up front is always legit. And that's what you're getting out of the Chargers right now. Well coached. And that's why the Steelers only beat them by 10. But are they the best team in the NFL? I'm scared to say it, Sam. But I'm going to go with, I still got to go with the Buffalo Bills, even though they're not undefeated. I think the Buffalo Bills are better than the Seahawks, the Steelers, and the Vikings. And that's just me. I don't know. What are your thoughts? But I will say, I think the Vikings are 2. I'd put Buffalo Bills 1. I put Vikings 2. I put Steelers 3. What do you think?
Well, and you got the sneaky Chiefs, who they find a way to win close every game. But I will say they've beaten good teams. They beat the
Saints,
Ravens,
though, too. The Saints, I don't know if I can put the Vikings ahead of the Saints just yet.
The Saints they looked much more human against the Eagles on Sunday. So I'm just of the 3-0 teams, Ron. Of the 3-0 teams, the Saints have the Chiefs have a good resume with who they've beaten, but they have not looked convincing in victory. So beating the Bengals, even though the Bengals are 0-3, I think that's still a good win. The Ravens are a good win, and the Falcons on the road, that's a good win. So they have 3 good wins. The Vikings have 2 amazing wins, just destroying 2 good teams. The Dolphins haven't beaten anybody. And the Dolphins played the Broncos close, the Patriots close, and then the Dolphins without Tua. I think
the Bills are 3-0. I don't know why I keep thinking the Bills
and
lost.
The Bill, yeah. And
the
Bills are sneaky. Like the Bills, Arizona's a decent team. They beat Arizona. They crushed Jacksonville. And they beat the Dolphins with Tua for most of the game. So I give the Bills a lot of credit. But I think if you're just looking at the resume through 3 games, I think the Vikings are there. Like, I think they've had the best 3-game stretch of anybody in the league. You can't nitpick these victories. Like, you can look at the Chiefs and say, oh, they got bailed out by the ref. They got bailed out by bad play calling by Raheem Morris. You can't say that about the Vikings. There are no nitpicks from any of their 3 wins.
And you look at this, so the Bills, the Chiefs. So for those at home, for those watching the show on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. For those that are listening on their podcast devices, make sure you can tweet at me and Sam as well. That's 3 Ron Johnson on X. You can X me. I don't even know what that is. You can send a post to me. But it's the number 3 Ron Johnson, RONJOHNSON on X. Also Instagram as well, same thing. But just let us know, because we're gonna have this video up. You got the Bills, the Chiefs, the Steelers. You also have the Minnesota Vikings. You have the Seahawks. Those 5 teams. If you had to rank them 1 through 5, where do you go with it? With just the undefeateds. Sam, you're putting the Vikings 1?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm going I'm going Bills. Then I'm going to go Vikings, Steelers, Chiefs, Seahawks. That's my 5. And I'm hating on the Seahawks a little bit. I just want to see them play somebody else. I want to see them play a tough game. Like, I don't feel like they've had a tough go at it just yet. Like, I personally don't. When you look at like the Seahawks as a whole too, I just don't know if their team, I mean, they're winning. I just don't know if their team is what we think they're. Like the Patriots. They beat the Patriots in overtime. Like, it took overtime to beat them. Now, we are going to get the test. And this is where maybe next week we can come back and we can talk about this, because they play the Lions at home, on the road. They have to travel to the vaunted Lions on Monday Night Football. But you got them beating the Broncos. Again, the Broncos did beat the brakes off the Buccaneers, but they beat the Broncos. We don't think the Broncos were a good team. A lot of people didn't. They beat the Patriots. We don't think the Patriots are a good team. At least I don't. They beat the Dolphins. We know the Dolphins aren't good right now without Tua. And then they have the Giants, which is a winnable game. Here's 2 games for the Seahawks, Sam. They're really going to tell us who they are. And the 49ers might never get it together. They play the 49ers on October 10th, and they play the Lions on the 30th, Monday night. And then they got the Dirty Birds, and then they got the Bills. So this next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks for them. And they got the Rams, 6 weeks.
It's going to get tough.
49ers again.
This
Then
is
they
a
got
tough
the Cardinals. Then they got the Jets. Then they got the Cardinals. They got the Packers. Then they got the Vikings. December 22nd, Sam. December 20. Here's also what I think is dumb. And I never looked at this. This is just super random. Again, I love to go random. People know that to follow the show long enough. The Vikings play the Seahawks on the 22nd. And then we get Christmas. We get a beautiful Christmas. Hopefully the Vikings, because the Vikings are going to be on the road in Seattle. So then we get our Christmas. Sam, they turn around and they play the Bears 4 days later on the 26th. I did not realize. So Christmas must be on a Wednesday then this year, because that's Thursday night football. Yes, Christmas is on a Wednesday this year. That's dumb. Like, that's the 1 week you should give people Thursday night football off. Like, you're telling me I got to play Sunday. I got Monday off. Tuesday's supposed to be my off day as well, but now I got to probably do a little walkthrough, because then Wednesday I got to get ready to play a game against the Bears. And I got to travel. So not only is it tough, I got to leave on Wednesday. I'm leaving on Christmas. I got to travel on Christmas, Sam, to go play a game against the Bears. Like, they're going to win, because Bears are not really good right now. I don't know if you've seen some videos of DJ Moore when he missed the throw. He like took his helmet off on the sideline. Like, he dove for the ball on the sideline and then just laid there on the sideline and then took his helmet off and walked to the bench. Like, this is BS. Also, like the Rome Odunze touchdown and the Caleb Williams touchdown. I mean, you saw that. They both was their first, and they were kind of fighting for the ball like little brothers. Like, give me the ball. No, you give me the ball. And it was like, I don't know if it was a joke or it was for real. What? Like, if it was their planned celebration. I don't know what it was.
That's funny.
But the rest of the team looks so fed up with them, because they're like, dude, we are losing, and you two over here like lollygagging about who's going to get this touchdown ball. Like, Rome Odunze walked off the field. The offensive line is like, nobody's celebrating with those two. Like it's almost like read the room. It's like being at a funeral and the two little kids are over there playing and laughing and they're super loud, not realizing everybody else is crying. Like read the room. Like don't be unaware. Or the adults, like kids, okay, kids can play at funerals because they don't know any better. But for the adults, like adults over there laughing and screaming and laughing and drinking, and you got people over there literally in tears and shambles trying to be quiet. Read the room. Roman Duza, and again, that goes to Caleb Williams, a little bit of immaturity. But it's time to jump into this second segment. We're going to talk about Gophers. We're going to talk about the Packers look week. And we'll do all that. Because also I want to talk about one thing I saw, and this has something to do with the Vikings, so we'll talk about this in the next segment. But it's just a funny anecdote I saw. Anecdote? I hate that word. Antidote. Is that how you say it? Anecdote? There's a random anecdote because there's a C in there. Yeah, there's a C in there. Anecdote. We'll talk about that much more coming up next after a word from our sponsors.
And today we're brought to you by FanDuel. I'm going to tell you how you can get some cold, hard cash in your pocket, making a big return with America's #1 sportsbook. I love this promotion. Bet 5, if you're a new customer, bet 5, get $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed with your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. So you get a hunch about a game. You can place that before the game. You can use the live lines, bet during the middle of the game. You can take a look at the Vikings line at Lambeau. You can get in the action. Why don't we take a look while we're live here? Vikings are underdogs at Lambeau. They are 2.5-point dogs against probably Jordan Love and the Packers. You can get those points, get in the action at America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel.com. Bet 5, get 200. Enjoy yourself. Make every moment more.
So, Sam, when you look at where we're at, and we talked about this coming up, the one anecdote I want to get out there to pay the tease off, it's the life comes at you fast. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's C.J. Stroud with his hand on the chest of Caleb Williams, and we know what was said. Hey, get down, man. Don't take those hits, blah, blah. And then you fast forward a week later, and it's Sam Darnold's hand on C.J. Stroud's chest. It looks the same. And both C.J. Stroud and Caleb Williams have the same face, like, man, what you got to say to me? I get it. I know. So, of course, then there's jokes of like, I don't think Sam Darnold was mic'd up, and I really don't think he said it, but people are like, Sam Darnold was like, hey, man, don't take so many hits out there, man. Make sure you get down. Like, it's not worth it. Throw the ball faster. Because he did, was it 5 sacks? Something like that, and 2 interceptions?
Yeah, 5 sacks. Yep.
5 sacks, 2 picks. Like, you basically did what you told Caleb Williams not to do, which is extend plays when you don't need to, which is take unnecessary hits down the field. He's crying about when he got hit by Blake Cashman. Blake Cashman probably enjoyed that. He hit me in the head. Baby. You're a runner now. You're running, and you didn't slide. You ran, and you ran like to try to go get he can hit you in the helmet. Like, you are a runner ducking your head. He is allowed to hit you in the helmet. Like, that's why Caleb Williams probably is like, hey, funny, you told me to do that. If I'm Caleb Williams, I'm be petty. I would have tweeted like, man, you should have took your own advice because you didn't slide. But moving on, we got to talk about the Gophers first. So Gophers head to Michigan. Not much to talk about. But Michigan is really good. We saw them play USC last week, came down to the wire. USC is really good. So the Gophers have Michigan and USC back-to-back, Sam. That's a lot. That's a lot. And USC, I think, got moved to a night game again as well. So 6:30 kickoff for the Gophers. So they're giving them a lot of prime time. I think so. People are like, oh, man, what a time to be alive. I don't think it's much about the Gophers. It's more so about the matchup. Like the Iowa one was worth it at first. It was started off good, and then it got out of hand. The USC bit is because the West Coast teams, they're trying to honor them when they have to travel and not give them 11 a.m. kickoffs, because that is going to throw off their people back home. Because for them, if it's an 11 a.m. kickoff in Minnesota, which we're used to, or noon kickoff in Minnesota, which we're used to, but it's 11 a.m. because it's big noon goes off the East Coast. So we're 11 a.m. here. That means it's 9 a.m. in California. So you're asking USC fans and families to get up, breakfast at 8, and then tailgate or whatever they do, and then watch the game. No, for them, 6:30 here is their normal 4:30 kicks there, which is the normal Pac-10, Pac-12 times, which we would see here at 6:30, and then or sometimes even night games for them, which is 7:30, which is 9:30 for us. And we're like, why are we watching Pac-12 like Colorado? Like, why are we watching some of these games Colorado versus Baylor. Like, it's 11 p.m. It's midnight, and we're over here still watching this game because it's on the West Coast, and it was a night game on the West Coast. So I think they're trying to honor that with the West Coast teams. I think my guess is that was part of the Big Ten agreement when they decided to come over to say, hey, look, if we have to go play Penn State, we're not playing Penn State at noon because that's 9 a.m. for our guys. Like, can we get Penn State at night? And I guarantee, or 4:30, because 4:30 for them is then their 1:30 games. So, which is 3:30 here for us, which we're used to seeing, or 2:30 here for us. So I think they're going to try to do that as much as possible to honor, though. I mean, it's not always going to work out. Like, they're going to get screwed every once in a while, just like we're going to get screwed going to the West Coast and having to play, an early game because it has to air here at a certain time. They haven't said it yet, but I'm guessing at some point there might be a 9 a.m. kick because it has to be a noon game and it's at UCLA or it's at USC or it's at Oregon or it's at Washington and they want it on big noon Saturday. And it's going to be a 9 a.m. kick for them. I think they're trying to get away from that, though. I think they're trying to make sure it never happens. These are billionaires. It's $1 billion, $3 billion or $2 billion TV contract. So they're going to figure it out. But yes, USC coming to Minnesota, West Coast team, got moved to 6:30 p.m. It's good for the USC fans to watch it. That's the biggest, like, they know their biggest crowd is going to be USC watching. They know that. They know the USC fans are going to watch. They have a bigger following than I would say Minnesota does watching on TV. So it's like, who do we want to make happy? Let's make USC fans happy and make sure they are up and ready. And it's 3:30 for them. That's middle of the day. They've had a couple drinks. They can have a barbecue. They're going to be tuning in this game. Only way I'm going to go with this, Sam, is the only way the Gophers win is they have to keep up. USC does move the ball fast. Michigan's defense is really good. Michigan kept them at bay. It was 20-24, I think. And then Michigan came down and scored at the end of the game. But you have to if you can keep USC under 21 points, you have a chance to win the game. If you let them get going, because they have a quarterback. The quarterback is really good. And they have a really good receiver as well. And so if you let them get going, good luck. Good luck with that. And so, but for Michigan, they have a good defense. They have a decent quarterback. Like, he's not great yet. He's good, but he hasn't proven. But they do have two, Sam, really good running backs. And we just saw the Minnesota Gophers give up a ton of yards on the ground to the Iowa Hawkeyes. And we know Johnson is one of the best running backs in the country. Michigan has 2 NFL running backs as well. And that's where I'm nervous, Sam, is that if you watch the Iowa film and I'm Michigan, I'm looking back like the Penn State game. Why are we going to throw the ball? Let's run the ball until they stop us and make this a video game thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't think this line is big enough in favor of Michigan. 9.5 right now.
It was 12.5, and then it went to 8.5, and now it's back to 9.5. So I don't know if some news that came out or something was said, because Meat Sauce tweeted that. He said it was 12.5, now it's 8.5, and now you're just saying it's 9.5. So yeah, it's moving. Very
interesting, because I would have it, if you asked me what the line is going to be, if I didn't know already, I would have guessed like 17. Like I feel like Michigan is vastly better, and they're at home in this game. Now, I know they can't throw it very well, but when did that ever stop them last year? With
right.
JJ McCarthy, who could throw it well, but they have such a good running game. They have such a good line. I'm not sure exactly if the Gophers defense is good or not. Like, I think I'm a little conflicted. I loved their defense in the non-conference. I thought, okay, they were solid against North Carolina, held them to a bunch of field goals, got after the quarterback, shut out a couple of bad non-conference teams. I thought they were going to be the genuine article. And then Iowa game comes around and has me all conflicted, because I thought they got out-muscled in the trenches. They gave up a lot of yards on the ground, Mm-hmm. That's an alarm bell when you're going up against Michigan. If Michigan can duplicate what Iowa did, if they can, turn it into a copycat game plan, I'm worried. And I don't know if the Gophers have their 2 defensive backs either. I don't know if they have Wally back. I don't know if they have Gooseby back. So I'm worried about just a run it up on you, 40 rushes for 220 yards kind of thing from Michigan. That's my concern. Feels like the Gophers are going to have to pass the heck out of the ball in order to win this game. What do you think?
Yeah, Max Brosmer, I mean, he's been throwing the ball. They threw it 37 times. Like, a lot of people wouldn't have assumed they threw it that much. Here's where I'm a little bit torn. Is Darius Taylor 10 carries? Like, that's not enough. Marcus Majors, 5. Marcus Major, 5. Jordan Newman, 2. Max Brosmer's 4 runs weren't like designed. So you ran the ball 17 times, quote unquote. They said 21, but 17 called runs to running backs. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. You look at the way it was set up with this team. At the half, Minnesota had it 7-14. It was their game. All they had to do was come out and run the ball, slow it down. Third quarter for Minnesota went to hell. They absolutely got destroyed in the third quarter. 17 points. And that's when it was over. I mean, it was pretty much over then. The last fourth quarter touchdown kind of was the nail in the coffin. Because at that point, if you think about it, you're 2 scores away, quote unquote. If they don't get that last touchdown, and maybe you can get a touchdown in the fourth quarter to bring it, 21, and then you're a field goal away. No, when they got that last touchdown, it was like, yep, it's over. And that's when you saw the fans head for the exits. You got like K McNamara, 11 completions, Sam, 11 for 62 yards.
Yeah.
So if I only saw that, if I were like, man, Minnesota's defense, man, they 11 completions, 62 yards, no touchdowns. But here's where it gets bad. Caleb Johnson, 21 carries, 206 yards, almost 10 yards a carry, Sam. 10 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns. That's where they got killed. That's where they absolutely got killed. And that just can't happen because the receivers, they didn't do anything. And so, like, again, if I'm Michigan and I know I got Donovan Edwards back there and I got this other kid now that's running the ball for Michigan, I'm running the ball. And so, like, you think about the Michigan USC game and you understand what they did. So looking at USC, Miller Moss, we know that's the new quarterback for USC. Sam, yep. I don't know if you knew do you know how many times he threw the ball? And this is why I'm worried about Minnesota. I hope Minnesota's ready for the pass. He threw the ball.
I have the box score up here from the Michigan game. 51 throws.
51 throws. That is nuts. Not only is that nuts, Sam, but the number of plays. If I'm not mistaken, 37 and 17 is 54. The Gophers had 54 plays. Let's just call it that. It might be a couple more because there's some sacks in there. There's some, some Max Brosmer runs. But 54 plays. 51 for USC was just the pass. And they still had 13 carries from one running back, 3 from another, and then Miller Moss. His 5 carries for -27 were sacks. So I hate when they count that. I wish quarterback sacks did not count against rushing. Because that is so dumb to me, like how it affects. It should just be its own category. Like it should just be its own category. The quarterback got sacked, -27 yards. That's it. It should not affect your net rushing yards. Because I know people that gamble. Like if you bet USC would have over 100 yards rushing, they did. 100 yards from one running back, 20 from the other. But the -27 from the quarterback doesn't pay you out. That's why it's so stupid. Net rushing yards is under 100 for them. So I hate when that happens. Just like my bet of the Vikings having over 120, they would have had over 120 rushing yards, but their net rushing yards was under because of the sacks. And so that's why I'm actually going to Fox with that. Like, hey, look, I get the win on that because they had over 120 rushing yards. Like that negative is dumb. Like that they had over 100. The question was, are they going to have over 120 rushing yards? And they did. You didn't say net. So I won by I need to go back and look at that question. I got to go back and look at the show and get the question. But thinking about this whole thing, Sam, when you look at Michigan, we got to jump into the Daily 3 coming up next. We got 3 questions, about 3 minutes each. Looking at this Michigan game versus Minnesota, you saw what they handled. Alex Orji for Michigan, 12 attempts, 7 completions, 32 yards. They just ran the ball, and that's what's going to happen. And you had Donovan Edwards, who had the touchdown, 14 carries, but then they had was it Khalil? Yeah. Khalil Mullings is their new running back. They keep a pair. Last year they had what's his name? That went to the NFL. Drawing a blank on his name. Blake Corum. And this guy here, 17 carries, 159 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So it's almost like whoever we want to give it to, we can give it to when we can run it down your throat. So that's why I'm worried about this Minnesota team and what they have to deal with. But going these rivalry games, you just never know. You never know what you're going to get out of them. You never know what's going to happen. It only takes a spark. People did not think we going to beat Penn State. So that's why I'm never the fact that I walked into Penn State with my team and we walked out with the governor's bell and they were number 2 in the country. And then we went to Ohio State and we walked out and they were number 6 in the country. I'm never going to say because Michigan's top 10 or top 15. I mean, I'm guessing they're going to go up, or maybe this is the end of it, 12 and 13. USC's 13, Michigan's 12. I'm never going to say they can't be a top 20 ranked team, but they have 2 top 20 ranked teams back to back. That's crazy. But I don't ever say that because I don't care what you're ranked. We can beat you any given Saturday. But then also looking forward real quick to the Packers game, Sam. Vikings, Packers. Sounds like Jordan Love might be playing, which I'm fine with because if he's not 100% healthy and his knee is not, he can't move quick enough, Brian Flores is going to eat him alive. Now, we do know he's a better passer than Malik Willis. Malik Willis, I actually don't like the Malik Willis bit because he runs the ball. They run like quarterback draws with him, and he runs the ball well. Like he ran on Tennessee well. I would rather have Jordan Love because we know he's probably not going to run. He's not going to get out the pocket much. He wants to stay healthy. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like game planning for Malik Willis is hard, and also just kind of knowing that the Packers are going to stack up the offensive line with tight ends and just sell out to run the ball. Like that does provide a challenge, even if you know it's coming, if your defensive line isn't up for it. Now, I think the Vikings line would be, but certainly game planning against Jordan Love is a little more traditional or predictable, I guess. You have the scouting report on him. You have more data on Jordan Love. So it's probably a slight bit of relief to know who you are game planning against. The problem is that Jordan Love we've seen him be very good against the Vikings, and he offers a lot for Green Bay. But we've also seen the Vikings in Lambeau make Jordan Love look like CJ Stroud did last Sunday. I mean, they absolutely overwhelmed him in the middle of the season last year. So I think it could go either way. If he's not super confident in that knee, that could take away some of his mobility, and that could really let the Vikings loose on him. So I think there's probably there's some perks to facing Jordan Love instead of Malik Willis.
Correct. And that's why I'm looking at it that way. You look at Malik Willis, 202 yards in the air, 19 attempts, 13 completions, 1 touchdown, no pick. But here's where he got busy on the Titans. 6 carries, 73 yards, 12 yards a carry, and a touchdown on the ground as well. So he's a true dual threat. So if you put his totals up, he had 275 total offensive yards by one person, which again, did the Titans not know how to use them? Because clearly, now, here's where I go with that too, though, Sam. 202 yards, 73 rushing, touchdown in the air, touchdown on the ground. First time out starter, replacing starting quarterback. Who does that sound like? Josh Dobbs. It sounds like Josh Dobbs. Not a lot of time to plan, new to the team. Let me make this offense as simple as possible. How long can that last? And that's where it didn't last for the Vikings. Eventually, I got to get a little complex with you. And can you read it? And then maybe that's where people are like, oh, that's why the Titans got rid of him. Because he can't read a defense if he has to pass the ball 40 times. And so that's what I'm worried about. Like, not worried about. So that's what I'm looking at, where it's like, is Malik Willis for real? Are the Titans just that bad? Or is this one of those, like, I'm not going to give you a lot to think about. Here's the 10, 15 plays I'm going to run with you. We're going to keep running them with different formations, and you just know here. And then when you got to use your legs, bro. And so that's why I'm like, this is a little Josh Dobbs is. Like, show me this week in and week out. But I'm guessing, because it sounds like Jordan Love was warming up during the Titans game, and people thought he might be able to go. And so my guess is if you lose to the Vikings, now, again, that win over the Titans, that helped them out because 1-2 versus 2-1 looks way better losing to the Vikings going 2-2 first being because they would have been 1-2. So then they lose to the Vikings, they'd have been 1-3. So 1-3 versus 2-2, huge different outlook on the season. Huge different outlook. Even if they lose this game, the Vikings being 2-2, it doesn't scare them. Being 1-3, I think you might panic a little bit. Like, are we gonna? Because now people are talking about the Bengals being 0-3. And no 0-3 team has ever made the playoffs or Super Bowl or something like that. I can't remember which one it is. Super Bowl. So now they're saying that the Bengals are all but out. So that's Vikings. We got more this week with the football party. I'll jump on. We'll talk about that. But I think the Vikings are going to go down to Green Bay. I think they're going to do just fine. This defense travels. Defense travels. We know that. And this defense is one of them. The crowd noise helped, but I don't know if that mattered. I don't know if that mattered. They could have played the Texans in the middle of the desert. I think you get the same outcome with maybe another field goal because they don't get the offsides penalties, false starts to push them out of field goal range. So maybe instead of 34-7, they lose 34-10. But other than that, I think it's the same thing. The crowd noise only affected like that one series. Other than that, you'd have got the field goal there. So now it's 30-10. Even if they score a touchdown there, say they would have scored because they didn't jump offside or false start, you got 34-14. Still a beatdown. So this defense can travel. This defense does well. Good thing that Sam Darnold is healthy. They're going to probably rest him a little bit this week. He's going to probably be limited or full participant, but we know what that means for a quarterback. Just go out there and throw a little bit, bounce around. But let's stay healthy with the knee bruise. No structural damage, which is great. And then you turn around and you get Justin Jefferson, who he played with the thigh bruise, so he looked just fine. Did not miss a beat. Now it's probably still sore as heck, but the thigh bruise, like the fact that it wasn't structural or bone or anything, good to go. So coming up next, we got the Daily 3. That's 3 questions. It's been about a minute each today. We'll be back after a quick word and a quick pause. And make sure you guys check out the postcast. The Twins, Gophers, Vikings games, there's postcast. So after every Twins game, make sure you check out our postcast. After every Gophers game, it's myself, Rob Kane, Luke Inman. And after every Vikings game, of course, people, me, Sam, Luke, and Luke try to break it down and give you what we thought about this. And it's been great, 3-0. It's been easy to do those. Gophers hasn't been as easy. It's been tough. I was walking through darkness during the Gophers games because that was the mood I was in. I was in the dark.
Yeah.
Like for those that heard the podcast, you probably didn't hear it. But for those that watched it and you go back on YouTube and watch it, I'm walking through campus like just, sad clown face. It's kind of sad. It was like Iowa Gophers fans were hanging out because there wasn't any animosity. They're like, look, we feel bad we beat you this way. But now it's time for the Daily 3. It's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. About a minute today, though. Take it away, Sam.
All right, Ron, you touched on this in segment 1, but the recent success of Geno Smith, 3-0, Justin Fields, 3-0, Sam Darnold, 3-0, is it proof that teams give up on QBs too quickly in the NFL?
Yes, I think they do, but no, yes and no. I think they give up on the QBs too quickly, and they don't look at the coaches. Every quarterback situation, if you go back to, there are some that just don't work. And the RG3, I get it, because RG3 is one who got hurt and then kind of got bounced around the league a little bit, so he feels like he wasn't treated right. Again, that's why he's looking at the J.J. McCarthy situation. He's like, man, if I would have just done what J.J. McCarthy did, which is get surgery and sit out, I'd probably still be playing. Or not still, but, he'd have been playing longer. Who knows? But his knee never got right. He never was fully healthy. And now, he's going to have lifetime knee issues because he played on a hurt knee and then re-hurt it because he was a running quarterback. It doesn't work. And that's why I'm like worried about Jordan Love. But yeah, I do think some teams overthink the quarterback and then they don't look at within. Like they don't look at the offensive coordinator. What system are we running? What are we doing? There's some quarterbacks that, they just don't work. They're not good enough. But there's others. Also, though, let's not forget about growth and change. Some guys need to grow and change, and we're missing that too. So I think there's a little of both. I would say, yes, there are some that give up too quickly, but then I would also say, like, some guys, as they get older, they learn more and they get with new coaches, they get better. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think it's pretty overwhelming evidence that that quarterbacks need to adjust to this league, that it's a lot above the neck, that mentally maybe some of these quarterbacks have some arm talent in college, but they don't have it upstairs yet. And I think seems like being a backup can teach you that. Just being around the game for a few years can enhance your knowledge of the game. And then it's a matter of getting a chance, right? Because, all right, there might be a lot of backup quarterbacks, Ron, that have the ability to step on and be a starter, but we would never know because they aren't given that chance. And Sam Darnold, he got a chance. He took advantage. Geno Smith, he got a chance. He took advantage. It's just a matter of kind of being in the right place at the right time. If you're not good immediately, it's hard to get that second chance. And not every guys do. Like Josh Rosen, think about him. He's done. Yeah. A lot of these guys never get that other chance. WNBA, the Lynx, they were winners in game 1, high-scoring game, 102-95 over the Mercury. Will they complete the sweep on Wednesday?
Yeah, I think so. It's going to come down to the first quarter, though. You look at the first quarter, 19-32. The Lynx just jumped out on them. Like I said, the game I went to and the games I've watched, it's always that. They're always a run. The Lynx go on, and then if they stay hot, it's tough to beat them. And I think that's going to be the key. Start out hot like they did because they won the second quarter by 1. They lost the third quarter by 6, and then it didn't, like, not say it didn't matter, but the fourth quarter, as long as they stayed in tow with the Phoenix, and they lost by 1 in the fourth, which didn't matter because they already had an 8-point lead. And so I think that's the key. If you can go into the fourth quarter with a lead, I think this team is tough to beat, and you have to start out fast.
Yeah, Nafisa Collier shot out 38 points. What a performance. The Lynx are like 11 games better than the Mercury in the regular season. They're such a better team. This should be a clean sweep. Bring on the conference finals. Last one, Ron. We talked about all the 3-0 teams in the first segment. We also touched on some 0-3 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Which coach has the hottest seat right now in the NFL?
Ooh, so there's a few. So I'd say one that has nothing to do with NFL head coaches and nothing against them. I think Mike Zimmer has a hot seat right now. I'm going defensive coordinator because the Dallas Cowboys defense doesn't look great. Like, they are getting absolutely ran up on. They started out hot. The article came out with Zimmer, and then all of a sudden, all hell's breaking loose. Antonio Pierce, I think he kind of felt it, but then he also kind of turned it on the players, made a business decision. And so he's kind of blaming them for what happened there. But then you look at, like, and they're not 0-3, but I'm looking at the New York Giants, like, for Dable. Like,
yes,
what is the deal there? Like, are you guys going to be good? Are you going to be bad? Like, you gave Daniel Jones his money, you got rid of Saquon Barkley, and he wasn't the problem. So it's funny that Brian Flores and Brian Dable had issues. Do the New York Giants go back and offer Brian Flores a job now? They offered it to one Brian, and Belichick let the cat out the bag. Do they come back now and offer it? Or, because Belichick wants to come back and coach, do they offer it to Bill to be a New York Giant? Because we know he's had the New York Jets, that area, and, him and Parcells and blah, blah. Yeah. And do the Giants say, look, we want the Patriot way here in New York? And can you make Daniel Jones, or do we need to go out and get a quarterback? Because we know Quinn Ewers maybe we draft Quinn Ewers and we cut Daniel Jones, maybe. But it's still funny that the Giants, like, watching Hard Knocks, the stuff they're releasing, how dumb they look as a front office. But I think Dable is hot. I think he's the hottest one.
Doug Peterson and the Jaguars. You could argue the Jaguars have been the worst team through 3
true.
games.
I forgot about him. Yeah, and he has a quarterback too. Like, you have a franchise quarterback, and so to have a franchise, it's one thing to have a quarterback and he sucks, but to have a franchise quarterback that they know is good and you're just not getting it out of them. Yeah, that's what I'm tired of. I'm tired of owners recycling coaches. Like, there's got to be college coaches that have not been head coaches in the NFL yet that deserve a chance, other than you guys keep hiring fired coaches from other programs. Clearly, it didn't work in where was he with the Eagles? Was Doug Peterson, right?
Correct.
If it didn't work there, why is it going to work for you? I've never understood that. They get fired, and they get hired as a head coach somewhere else. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. They get fired, they should be fired. Move on. Like, it's one thing. Like, it's like the CEO of Best Buy getting fired, and then Target's like, oh, we got to go get him. No, clearly there's some Best Buy saw that they, like, come be a VP, come work your way back up, but not head coach. Like, I don't understand how they keep doing that. But that'll do it for us today. Looking forward to the rest of the week. Got a lot of football to talk about. It is the battle for the Little Brown Jug. You also got the Minnesota Vikings in the border battle. So it should be a fun week of football. I'm Ron Johnson and Sam Ekstrom, and thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Also, SiriusXM is a proud partner, so make sure you go to SiriusXM. You can get all of our shows. Just search Locked On Sports Minnesota. Search SXM in the app market, and it'll be right there. Thank you, guys. Have a